Hello everybody, in ANSYS software we have a three-step for simulating every process. Per processor, loading and solving, and post-processor. I want to show how to do working in ANSYS in step 2, step loading and solving. In this step we defining analyte type, defining load and load step, killing weld elements, defining right item to result file, and finally resolving. The solution step is very important step in simulation fillet welding in ANSYS. So go to solution and go to analyze type. For controlling solution option, go to solutions control and define time of end of the load step, that must be 2 seconds. And after that, defining number of sub-step for every load step, that must be 5. Yeah. Write item to result file, that must be selecting this item, that causes to increasing the result file volume, that in the end of the solution. Don't variation any parameters in the another, and okay. For selecting the weld element, go to selection entities, selecting element by number, and okay. And in this window, selecting minimum and maximum increments option, and importing the minimum and maximum number for a weld element with increment 1, and in pushing enter for giving to me a review of the weld element. Let's show it. Okay, now we have a weld element that we a command ANSYS with S, the association node to this element, and with nplot command plotting this node. This node, the association to element, weld element node. After selecting this element and node, now we must killing these elements. Yeah, for killing this element per view plots with this toolbar. For creating toolbar, go to menu control and importing the command in this, and selecting accept. After this, go to load step options and go to other, and burst and died, and selecting kill element, and in this window selecting minimum and maximum increment, and importing number of weld element until selecting all weld element, and okay. Now all of the weld elements is killed. For previewing of the for previewing active element, I must go to select and entities, and in element I selecting leave elements, and okay. Now I have a leaf element That is all element excepted to exception the weld element that show in this picture. Now you see, after killing the weld element, letting all elements, I activating the numbering of the elements, go to plug control and selecting numbering. We have a 4 element. We have a 4 element in the first row of the weld. We're selecting these 4 elements for activation them with this command cell s and importing number of elements. Now I'm plotting the element and association node to these elements. Now, after selecting the first row of the weld element, we must creating and defining thermal load on these 4 elements. So the first load is heat flux that must be with this amount, that must be loaded on these 4 elements. This one. Yeah, the value 1. Yeah, after that, now go to plot control and symbol and surface loads symbol, selecting heat flux, yeah, and selecting contours, the shadow show. Now I show heat flux load and surfacing of this element. After that we loading heat generation and this node of this element and selecting all, yeah, and after that activate this amount, importing this amount for amount of the heat generation, and okay. Now with plot control and the symbol, go to body load symbol and selecting heat generation rate and contour. Now we see that the ANSYS show me amount of the heat generation. These 2 load are the weld thermal loading. Yeah, so creating this load. In this moment we can see a preview of the thermal load of the welding element row, first row of the welding element. Now we can see. Now I'm creating and defining a 0 temperature on all node association to weld element, and for this selecting this node, and after that go to define load, yeah, selecting this node, and after that go to define load, apply thermal and temperature and nodes, selecting peak all, temp and 0. Now all weld elements have a zero temperature. And I show it. Yeah. Now after selecting all node exception the weld element, we apply convection to this node. Define node, go to define node, apply convection, and selecting node and pick all. And in this moment apply exciting table. We must select in exciting table and in the apply film coefficient and node. Yeah, exciting table. And after that for bulk temperature selecting 20 for temperature and okay. Now all node structure and the structure in the structure exception of the weld line have a convection. Yeah. For creating this table, go to parameter and array parameter and selecting define. Before preparing this table, first reviewing this table, that variation with temperature convection. Great. For creating a table, click add, and after that in the parameter name importing a name for table, and after that the parameter type selecting choosing table, and after choosing a number of the row, number of for this table, and in the finally in the for the parameters variation must be selecting the temp as a temperature, and in this we can selecting any cell, double click on any cell, and after importing the variation of the temperature, and after that variation of the data of the convection, we can creating this table. So our model is prepared for solving, and we're after defining this model is transient analyze. For solving, go to solve and selecting current ls, and after that selecting OK for solving this problem. Yes.